Hello and welcome to the official Facebook and YouTube channel of Digital Ideas. Today we are joined by none other than the greatest commentator of world football, one of the finest who have ever graced the world of sports broadcasting, Mr. John Helm. And we are of course joined by our co-commentator, Mr. Suman Chakraborty. Uh, Today it's a very interesting day and it's a fans' delight because we are going to watch the UEFA Champions League final, which is a bit in between Bayern Munich and PSG. So we have none other than Mr. John Helm to talk about the same. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Happy to be with you again.
Yeah, you have been becoming a bit regular on our show.
Yeah, I'll be. My Indian accent is coming on very well. Thank you.
John, I have a question to you first on pace. Whom are you rooting for? Bayern Munich or PSG?
I'm going to go for Bayern simply because on your program last week I said that I fancied Bayern Munich to be the champions. I think the most interesting aspect of the game is that most people think it's going to be high scoring because on the one side you have Neymar and Mbappé and Di Maria. On the other side, you have Lewandowski and Gnabry. And I mean, the best players on the pitch are basically the attacking players. So the recipe, the cocktail, is for a highly exciting game and plenty of goals. I really hope it does turn out that way. But having predicted Bayern Munich last week, I can hardly go against my own prediction.
Well, of course, there would be a lot of questions about the rise of PSG in the finals because I mean, they had a fantastic season as well. Yes, Bayern Munich was stupendous, especially the semi-finals was just magnificent. But at the same time, what do you want to say, in fact, in terms of PSG, because they have been outstanding, simply outstanding, isn't it?
Yes, and at long last, they are fulfilling their potential because, in a similar way, in this country to Manchester City. When it's come to the biggest occasion of all, which is the Champions League, they have been a letdown. Now, this year, they haven't been a letdown, and a great amount of credit must go to Tuchel, the coach, for the fact that they've managed to step over all the different hurdles along the way, and there have been quite a few steep hurdles as well. So their style of football is good. And I think it really is indicative of the way that French football has been boosted so much by the World Cup final victory in Moscow 2 years ago, that here you had Lyon playing, getting all the way through, and now you have PSG getting all the way through as well. And yes, some people don't like it, the fact that they are so financed by the Qataris. But on the other hand, you have to say that, we want the best footballing teams to win. And I think it's fair to say that these are the two best footballing teams that we've seen this year in the Champions League throughout, not just since lockdown. And the days of Barcelona and Juventus may be over. Dangerous thing to say, but they could be over. And these could be the new pretenders.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of fans who are watching this particular show on Facebook and YouTube as well. They must have a lot of questions on their mind. But what do you want to say about Neymar? I mean, is it a kind of a redemption for him?
Oh, very much so. I mean, most of the newspapers here in England are full of Neymar today. And there's one very interesting article in the Mail on Sunday by a journalist who I do respect, saying he really hopes that PSG win for Neymar's sake. He's gone through all sorts of moods in his career, hasn't he? He was the great young pretender. He was going to be the next Pele, which is a horrible mantle to put onto anybody. And then, of course, in 2014, he had that horrendous injury during the World Cup finals against Colombia, which started, it was a bad tackle on him as well, which stymied his prospects there. Brazil went out in shame, of course, losing to Germany. Then he did gain some redemption by winning an Olympic gold medal at the hands of Germany as well, Brazil winning that one. Then he was hated at the start of this season by Paris, and he's always had to overcome this accusation that he's purely gone there for the money and not for his career. So on a personal level, you would hope that Neymar is successful this evening. And I go back a long way to an interview that he did I can't even remember where it was now, but he came into a press conference several years ago now. I think it was at the Club World Cup, actually. And he spoke pretty eloquently. And I think he has mapped out his career to a certain extent. And I think he was a bit rocked by the adverse criticism he received in Paris from their own supporters at the start of this season, where they wanted him to be off to Barcelona again. You know, they didn't really like him in Paris. So he's had to win the fans over, and he's done that by dint of some outstanding performances this season. And he's in a very good side, of course. But it's a bit similar, and I know you'll like this, likening him to Paul Pogba's attitude at Manchester United, where at times when things are not going well, he's not the man you want in the trenches. But when he's surrounded by other good players, as he is now, and everybody playing well, then he is a man that you would want on your side. So from that point of view, I think a lot of people would like to see Neymar take another step along the road to becoming the best in the world.
John, I'd be coming back to Ronak, but before that, I have one more question to you. Kylian Mbappé, what a fantastic time he is having. Won the World Cup, and now on the brinks of winning another silverware, and that is the Champions League, back to back. What do you want to say about him?
Well, there is no better stage on which to make your entry to the world than the World Cup. And I think of all the players who we saw for the first time really in Russia, Kylian Mbappé was the one who made the greatest inroads and the greatest indentation in people's memories, because he was absolutely brilliant and he's so quick. And he's gone on from there, of course. And we would expect him in the next 5 or 6 years to become an absolute global superstar. And the secret of tonight's game may be Mbappé, and whether he can get in behind the likes of Joshua Kimmich and Thiago and players like that, because he has that pace. There is no substitute for pace. If I go back over the years, we've all loved the likes of Ryan Giggs because he was so quick and he exploded on the pitch. You know, other players as well who took your breath away simply from the speed at which they played the game. And he's definitely in that category. So, you know, we're talking there about 2 Paris Saint-Germain players, and I know we'll come on to talk about your Lewandowskis and your Gabris and your Kimmichs a little bit later. But it's a breathtaking and a mouth-watering prospect tonight to see individual talent of the calibre of Mbappé on Neymar in a European showpiece, which is what this still is. Although I'm told there's barely anybody in Lisbon, of course, which is the most horrible thing about it. A match of this magnitude deserves a big audience, and sadly there ain't going to be anybody in the stadium to watch it. We'll all be watching on our television sets.
Yes, Ronak.
Absolutely. Right. Before we move on to take the questions, I would just like to remind our viewers that we would be giving more focus on the questions asked on YouTube. So please ensure that you're giving your questions or writing your questions on our YouTube channel. So we will take the first question of the day. Avik Roy is asking, which has been a bigger miracle according to you? Barcelona 1999, that is Man United versus Bayern, or Istanbul 2005, which is Liverpool versus Milan? What games they have been?
John, come on. You cannot say Liverpool.
Well, it's a brilliant question for me because I was privileged to be at both games. And the funny one was, I think, probably the Manchester United miracle, in the sense that Lennart Johansson, who was president of UEFA and charged with the responsibility of presenting the trophy, left the executive box with a minute to go, preparing to present the trophy to Bayern Munich. And by the time he got out of the lift, they were losing 2-1. And he couldn't believe it because he said, no, you've got the wrong ribbons on the trophy. And everybody, you know, Sheringham and Solskjaer, we all remember that incredible finale to the game. The Liverpool one, I remember using the phrase, and I think a lot of other commentators did at half-time, when we said, now it is a limitation exercise, damage limitation. That is all that Liverpool can get out of that match. Famous last words. Step in Steven Gerrard and other players as well who were absolutely magnificent. But for me, it was a miracle what Manchester United achieved. You don't score 2 goals in the last minute or in added time to win a Champions League final. You really don't. Coming back from 3 down in 45 minutes, I think is more plausible. and has happened more often. So if I have to vote for one or the other, I'd go for 99 in the new comp as one of the biggest footballing miracles I've ever seen. Behave yourself, Suman.
Absolutely.
I didn't give that answer just for your benefit, you know.
Good one. Ronak, the next question.
Right. We will move on to the next questions from the viewers, please. Apu Chakraborty is asking, sir, who is the key player today, both teams?
Okay. Well, last week I told you that one of my favourites this year, and he's not one of the bigger names, I suppose you would say here, is Joshua Kimmich, because he can play right back or he can play centre midfield. He can be the holding man. He's creative. You saw in the semi-final, it was his cross that set up one of the key goals. And I just think that he's got a massive role to play this evening. He's got the responsibility of looking after Neymar and Mbappé. That's an onerous task, but he's a good enough player to do it. And he's in the mould, isn't he, of 2 or 3 Germans of the past. I do know how old you boys are, but, you know, when you look back and they had Bertie Vogts at one time, and then they had Philip Lahm. He's another Philip Lahm, is Kimmich to me. He's Mr. Cool. He's Mr. Versatile. He can do anything. He scores goals. So for me, he is the key man for Bayern Munich. Obviously, you would say that Lewandowski is, whether he scores his goals or not. But if you're looking for somebody who is going to influence the game in all areas of the field, then Kimmich is the man for me. If you look at the PSG lineup, well, they have got so many great players, haven't they? But I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago, that I think Mbappé is. I love the way Angel Di Maria has come back from setbacks earlier in his career, of course, at Old Trafford, but he's had a brilliant season. But when a team has got somebody of the pace and the ability and the agility of a Kylian Mbappé, then they've got to be able to utilise that. And if they can get Mbappé in behind Kimmich and behind Thiago and behind the other good defenders, then I think they'll do it. Boateng, you know, is maybe not quite as quick as he used to be. I think that's a very, very key area in this game for Mbappé to exploit this evening.
Absolutely. So one question which I have personally is that, according to you, which one is a better trio? Di Maria, Neymar, Mbappe, or Muller, Gnabry, and Lewandowski?
Well, I'm not going to go against what I said last week, because for me, Lewandowski has been the outstanding player in Europe this season. Anybody who shatters goal-scoring records like he has done, scoring in so many consecutive games in the Bundesliga, scoring in so many matches in the Champions League, he's what I would call a typical English centre-forward, who sounds stupid because he's a Pole playing in Germany. But he does remind me of an Alan Shearer type of centre-forward. He's a bit of a battering ram, but he varies the way he scores his goals as well. They don't all come from inside the 6-yard box. They don't all come from his head or his right foot or his left foot. So I think that Lewandowski has been very underrated. The only time he let me down was when I commentated in the World Cup finals on a Poland game, and he had a very quiet match, but he wasn't surrounded by the sort of talent that he is at Bayern Munich. When you look at the likely Bayern Munich tonight, I've just scribbled it down here tonight. You know, they've got Goretzka, they've got Thomas Muller. What a fine player. What a great career Thomas Muller has had. They've got Gnabry, they've got Perisic, they've got Alaba, Davies, who is probably the quickest left back in the world. And they're all going to be providing the bullets for Lewandowski to fire. So, yeah, I'm unstinting in my praise of Lewandowski.
Absolutely. We'll take the next question from the viewers. Dear Rajiv is asking, so Helm, as you just now say that it will be a high-scoring match, then who do you think will score first?
Oh, good question. And I tell you what, I'm going to go for PSG to score first. I don't know why. I think that will really set things up as well. I think Bayern have shown that there is a frailty about them defensively. Whoever they've played, they've afforded the opposition chances. The first goal can be absolutely vital in the Champions League final, although Manchester United against Bayern disproves that. But I think that there is so much firepower in that PSG camp, and I think that the coach will have got them absolutely up for this one from the word go, that they could well get the first goal of the match, and then I see Bayern coming back. Might well be proved wrong. Bayern might win it 1-0 or 2-0 or something stupid like that. But the way their defence has operated in the previous games, they've always given chances to the opposition. So, good question. My answer is it's a 50-50. But I'll go for PSG to score first.
Suwanda.
Yes, I have a question, John. Of course, we talked about Mbappe. We have talked about Neymar as well. What do you think about the rebirth? I would like to say about Angel Di Maria. I mean, he has been absolutely brilliant throughout the competition, and of course this season.
And Suman, what a career that man has had. I first saw Di Maria play in the under-20 World Cup, I think it was. I don't think it was under-17s. I saw him play in the under-20 World Cup. And Argentina at that time were producing fantastic talents, the likes of Lionel Messi and Sergio Aguero and Carlos Tevez just before them, Saviola. I saw some absolutely wonderful players at under-20 level for Argentina. The next time he came into my conscience was at the Olympic Games, where he scored the winning goal in Beijing for Argentina against Nigeria, I think it was, in the Bird's Nest Stadium. And whenever I've seen him, he has always performed to the level of the stage. No matter the occasion, the higher the occasion, the bigger the occasion, the more Angel Di Maria has responded. Now, as a Mancunian fan, I think I can tell you that the problem he had when he was living in Manchester was partly he and his partner didn't settle. They didn't like the weather, and I wouldn't like the weather in Manchester either. It rains an awful lot. Their house got burgled. The settling in process was very difficult for him. The team wasn't quite as good as it had been. I think Angel Di Maria will put Manchester to bed in one way and say, it was part of my career. Glad he did it. Didn't quite work out. Had to move on, as he did do. But anybody who has played for the clubs that he has played for has to go into the category of being a great player. And he's had a lot of success. He's won a lot of medals. He's won a lot of titles. And you certainly won't put it beyond him to win another title tonight. And I would just add this as well. All credit to him, because to overcome a reverse at the height of your career, which is when he joined Manchester United at Old Trafford, to overcome that and to win over the supporters, as Neymar has done at Paris, by the way, as well, shows a great deal for Di Maria's character. So, well done to him.
Ronak.
Absolutely. Right, we will move on to the next question from the viewers, please. Amartya Chatterjee is asking, hello sir, hope you are well. What's your opinion over Kimmich? He is very flexible when it comes to playing at different positions. How important he would be in today's final?
I mentioned earlier the first time I saw Kimmich, and I was commentating off tube, by the way, which means I wasn't actually in the stadium, was at the Olympic Games in Rio. So I was based in a studio in the broadcast centre, but I saw several games involving Germany. I commentated on them. And Kimmich then was performing as an out-and-out right back. Funnily, he had Nicolas Sula, who has gone on to have a decent career as well, playing at centre-back. He had Serge Gnabry playing in front of him. He had Goretzka playing there as well, but he was purely and simply a right full-back. But he was the best right back in the entire Olympic Games. It's only this last year, really, that he has developed his game to become an outstanding midfield player as well. But I have a funny feeling that right backs are born in many ways to be right backs. They're not left backs, they're not midfield players. And although Kimmich can play there, I think he has just as much influence when he plays at right back as he does in other areas of the field. And I can go back years to people like Leandro for Brazil. There are others who spring to mind. In England, we had a guy called Jimmy Armfield many years ago, who was the first really overlapping right fullback. Now, Liverpool, of course, have a magnificent young player, Alexander Arnold, who influences games from that position. And I think over the years, what has evolved is the fact that right fullback is just as creative a position as a midfield player. Whereas at one time, your creative players were the midfielders, your right back and your left back were there basically to defend and give the balls to other players who would be more gifted and more skillful and would set things up. So I'm going to say, in answer to your question, and by the way, thank you for the first bit. I am very well indeed, thank you. But in answer to your question, I would say that Kimmich is,
as always,
more influential. Kimmich is more influential at right back.
Right. Since we're talking
John, I have
about
a question.
fullbacks,
Yes, I have a
please ask
question,
him.
John. If I request you to talk about the formations, the possible formations of both the teams, what do you want to say about it first? And what about the battle of the two managers?
Well, the battle of the two managers is very interesting, isn't it? Two Germans. But looking at my paper here, they've gone for PSG to be sort of a 3-4-2-1, and they've gone for Bayern to be more of a 3. It's a very interesting one. Is this 3-1-3? It's funny, really. They've got Lewandowski on his own up front, I would say. So they've gone 3-2-3-1, which might sound very strange. But it does depend on Kimmich, funnily enough, because if he is going to be the right back, then that does change the whole balance of the side. But they've gone with Neuer in goal, Kimmich, Boateng, Alaba and Davies, then Goretzka and Thiago, with Perisic on the right, Muller in the centre, Gnabry on the left, and Lewandowski as the centre forward. Well, I can see it working out like that. So far as the opposition has gone, they've gone Rico in goal, and then they've got Kehrer, Thiago Silva, Kimpembe, and Bernat across the back. Verratti, Marquinhos, and Herrera. And then I can't see it changing much from this. Di Maria on the right, Mbappé on the left, and Neymar in the middle. Can't see it changing much from that. Do you see otherwise?
Ronak.
Right. No, I don't think this is going to change because, one question which I had since you were talking about fullbacks. There's a guy who was born in Ghana and has a Canadian passport. He is 19 years old and his name is Alphonso Davies and he has already made his name into the papers. So, what do you have to say about him?
Quick. Very, 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 very quick. He could be a winger. He's a wing back. He's a full back. He is one of the most progressive players in the game at the moment. In the Bundesliga, he has taken over the mantle of fine players ahead of him. He's forced other players to move into other positions because he's made that left back position his own. And he is going to be a player who is going to be around for a long time. The only thing I would say, which is a shame, is that Canada are not a major influence in world football. And you want to see your top players playing in World Cup finals. And at the moment, that's hard to see because USA, Mexico, Honduras, even Costa Rica, all seem to dominate the CONCACAF qualifying teams for the World Cup. So it's not Davies' fault, of course. It's a bit like when Ryan Giggs was playing for Wales and Wales never qualified for a major tournament, unlike now. So individually, he's a fantastic force. He's a fantastic who can only get better. He really is going to get better. And maybe he is a help in the springboard for Canada to qualify. You don't know. They've got a couple of good players. But I think in a good team like Bayern Munich, he is still outstanding. In a Canadian side, he's probably their best player, but he won't get as far up the ladder in a global sense as you would like because of that.
Absolutely. We will move on to the next question from the viewers. Soumijit Das is asking the highlight. Yeah.
I have a question, John.
Right.
Yes, I can read
I
the
have
question.
a question, John. Marquinhos. My question is definitely on Marquinhos. Yes, he played as a midfielder in the last game, and he did wonders over there as a midfielder, as a holding midfielder, as a defensive midfielder. Do you think Marquinhos will be playing in that same role today as well in the big final?
Oh, yes, I think so. I don't think they're going to change much at all. And that's his best position. That is where his skill really comes to the fore. He's a man who nullifies the opposition. Over the years, there have been players. Gattuso was one, playing for AC Milan when they had a great side, who just fit into a pattern. Fernandinho at Manchester City is another one. I much prefer him in a holding position to when he has to play at centre-back. And I think Marquinhos is definitely suited to that role. And being a clever coach, I'm sure Flick will decide that this is where he's going to get the best out of him this evening. He'll be worried that that's where Marquinhos is going to be influential. The two coaches have a big role tonight. They know each other very well. They know their players particularly well. So each coach knows the opposition really well. So Marquinhos slotting in there behind Neymar and Mbappé, Di Maria, he's got to be there for me. He's got to be there. It's the only way to nullify the opposition and the rage of Muller, of course. Similarly, his role is going to be absolutely vital for Bayern. So they are two more key players. We've talked about all the attacking options that we've got on both sides, which are absolutely breathtaking, fabulous. But, those holding men, the same as we've had over the years with people like Ungotti and I'm trying to think of somebody else, but it'll come back to me in a minute. Makelele was the best in the world. I always thought he was absolutely terrific. And those are the players. N'Golo Kante, outstanding example at Leicester and Chelsea in the last 2 or 3 years. Not so much last year, but I think Marquinhos is suited to that role and could have a big impact on the game.
Right. We will move on to Shomajit's question. He had something to ask. Shomajit Das is asking, the high-line defense strategy of Bayern can be dangerous for them while there is speedy players like Neymar and Mbappé. Okay, so basically he is asking that would it be difficult for Bayern if they maintain their high-line defense strategy, considering that there is the likes of Neymar and Mbappé in the opposition?
Yeah, well, this is why I say the coaches have a massive role to play tonight. We hinted at this a little bit earlier, where they do play that high line, but he's actually said, as Flick, he's not going to change it. Things have worked for them. And in a way, it's a bit of a throwback to one or two other teams from the past. Kevin Keegan was a classic at this. He didn't mind conceding 2 goals, so long as his team scored 3. And I think it's that philosophy which has got Bayern as far as it has. So even when they thrashed Barcelona, they still conceded 2 goals. He didn't care. If you're going to score 8, what does that matter? And that's the philosophy that I think he's going to take into this encounter tonight. It is a high line. It is a dangerous game. It does mean that your forward players have to be on top form and find the opposition net. But I can't see he's going to change things now. I really can't. So that's why I think everybody's predicting a high-scoring encounter this evening. High-risk strategy, absolutely, but sometimes it pays off.
Absolutely. We will look at the next question, please. Apu Chakraborty is asking, sir, if you have a chance to give a pep talk before today's final, what will be your pep talk on Bayern dressing room and PSG's dressing room? So, both the teams.
It's a very funny question, really. One of the worst moments of my entire career came where I was taken by surprise and cameras focused on me, and they said that I was going to become the manager of a football club for a day. I did. I managed Bradford City, my local team, on camera, and they were playing a game against Burnley, and I was the manager for a day. And I had to come clean to the team in the dressing room before. I said, listen, ignore everything I say, because I had the clue really here. And I was talking to proper professional footballers, and I'm a journalist, I'm a broadcaster. Now, Tuchel and Flick are not. They are proper coaches. So my team talk will be very different to theirs. But if I was the manager of Bayern Munich, I would say, look here, you go in as the favourites. That's not always happened in the past with Bayern Munich. They've often had to overcome the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona, haven't always been able to do it. They're the favourites for one reason, and that is because they're unbeaten. Nobody can remember the last time they lost the game in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League, So they are the best team, you would say. Paris Saint-Germain is a bit of a later phenomenon. They've come good over the last few weeks. So far as Flick's team talk is concerned, that is my the spirit of it. I say, you are the best team. Go out there and prove it. The top men, you know how good you are. Lewandowski, I'm not going to tell you how to score goals. You've been doing it all your life. You know, Muller, for goodness sake, he's a rejuvenated player. So just go out and show the world that you are what we believe you are to be the best team. That's my team talk to Bayern Munich in their dressing room. PSG is somewhat different. I think you go in there and you say, this may be the best opportunity you ever have of winning the Champions League, because PSG are not habitual finalists in Europe. They've had to overcome a lot of criticism. So the team talk for them would be based on the lines of, look, not everybody out there loves our club. We love it. We're a group of players. We're going to go out there and prove that on the pitch, we are the best. Neymar, this is your chance to overcome a German side. You did it in the Olympic Games in Rio. Let's get out there and do it again. Di Maria, this is your chance to win something in Europe, to win a big title, the biggest title in your career here in Europe. Who else would you say? Mbappé, okay. You made a name for yourself 2 years ago in the World Cup finals. Now you can really write your name into history by becoming a winner of a World Cup and a Champions League. How many people can say they're doing that, and with a local team for him as well, you know, as a Frenchman? And let's put France firmly and PSG firmly once and for all on the footballing map. Because until you've won the Champions League, which Bayern have done so many times, of course, you're not there. People don't regard you as a champion team. The only team from France who's ever won the old European Cup was Marseille. So here you are representing your country as well as your city, as well as yourselves. So two very different team talks, but hopefully equally motivational. Good question. Probably a bad answer.
Absolutely, and I think your answer gave me goosebumps because I'm being very honest. So I think Subandha missed a lot of the part which Sir was answering. He was answering about the pep talk which he would have given if he had the opportunity to, mentor both PSG and Bayern. So it was just absolutely amazing. You missed it. So you're right. So we will move on to the next question. Devarun Banerjee is asking, in the last match, Marquinhos played a very vital part in midfield. What's your take on that? How important he would be for PSG?
I think we just covered that really in the last few minutes by saying that Marquinhos, I think, will stick with the same role because it worked decisively for them then. So why would you change what is clearly a winning formula? It's his best position. I think so as well. There have been players over the years where you weren't sure which was their best position. David Luiz is a classic example, isn't he? As a centre half, he can be Mr. Calamity. At other times, he can be absolutely fantastic. I saw him as a holding midfielder when he was at Chelsea, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant. But and so my opinion of him was that was his best position. Not everybody would hold the same view. So I think we've gone through it about Marquinhos. I see him staying there and having a big impact.
Right. So, Mula, do you have a question to ask?
Don't be shy.
I think he is having a technical problem.
Yes, we can.
Right. We'll move on to
the. Of course, I have many questions to ask, but a lot of viewers are asking questions. I think you need to give preference to them.
Yeah, we are. So let's move on to the next question from the viewers.
Can you hear me?
Rajdeep Roy is asking, Sir Helm, how are you? What's your viewpoints on Thomas Tuchel's tactics in US so far?
John, I have a question. John, I have a definite question.
Okay, I'll remember the other one.
Yes.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Please continue.
That question first then. Okay, well, so far as Tuchel is concerned, you cannot argue against his tactics. You really cannot. I mean, he's got the team into the final. So how can you possibly argue about anything that they've done? It hasn't always been easy along the road. They've had to put up with a lot of outside criticism, of course. just the way that the club is, the way the club is run and the way it's financially structured. And people get very jealous of things like that, as they did with Red Bull Leipzig. People don't necessarily like that. But he's got to close his mind to all that. And his job is in the dressing room and on the touchline. That's where matches are won and lost. And Thomas Tuchel has got the best out of certain players. People like Neymar and Di Maria have improved their games. He chose the right team in the semi-final with the selection of Marquinhos where he played him. And he's got the best out of one or two other players who were probably unsung heroes before, or probably didn't have as much self-belief as they have now. So he's changed the mindset. I think that's been the important thing about Tuchel. He's managed to change the mindset of those players and the dressing room attitude.
Absolutely. We shall move on to the next question from the viewers. Kostov Mohan Bagani, he's a Mohan Bagan fan, it seems. It is not his surname for sure. So, sir, is there any weak zone in the Bayern defense that Mbappé can take advantage of?
Well, I think there are weaknesses in every defence in the world on a given day, and depending on the standard of the opposition. And I did allude to the fact a little bit earlier that for me, I don't think they're quite as quick in central defence as they used to be. Jerome Boateng has been around for a long, long time now. And if he's going to be paired at the back with Alaba, I like Alaba, by the way. I think he's an excellent player, always has been. But yes, of course, there are weaknesses. They do concede goals. They, as I said earlier, they score plenty, which covers up any weaknesses they have. But the key to tonight's game, as so many have alluded to, will be if they can get Mbappé and Neymar in around the back of those centre backs. So that's where the key players can well be. The midfielders providing the ammunition for those strikers. But they're going to have to be very alert, Boateng and Alaba in particular. I don't see a weakness with Kimmich wherever he plays, and I don't see a weakness with Davies. The danger will be provided through the centre. Well, that's my feeling anyway.
Right. So we'll be taking the next question. A lot of questions. I must say that we are having hundreds of questions on our YouTube channel. So we have to take them. Sauradeep Debray, as a United fan, I'm happy for Herrera. Sir, what do you feel how instrumental he's going to be for PSG for today's in nullifying Thiago?
Oh, that is a difficult one. A lot is made of individual battles. Normally the centre forward against the centre half, or the right side midfield player against the left fullback. I think it's difficult to assess players like Herrera and Thiago. I mean, Thiago has been absolutely magnificent in his career with PSG. There's no question about that. But putting him up one against another, I'm not even quite sure that they will come up against one another throughout this game. It will depend on the tactics. It will depend who plays in which position. The formations we talked about earlier, whether they do go for a 4-3-2-1 or even a 4-3-3. It really is hard. And the coaches are so clever. These are two German coaches, remember, who've had massive impacts at their clubs.
Absolutely.
That they will have been working on these tactics and philosophies. And the fact that it's been played in such a short space of time as well is interesting, because they've all been based there in Lisbon and watching matches at the stadiums owned by Benfica and by Sporting. They've all come very quickly. It's been a congested timetable because of COVID-19, and therefore there's been a big opportunity to watch these players on a regular basis over the last 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. And I'm convinced that the coaches might just spring a surprise somewhere along the line this evening. I'm not quite sure which one will. So therefore, I think it's harder to pinpoint an individual battle apart from, say, Lewandowski is going to be up against Kimpembe or Thiago or whatever. So, hard question to answer. But it's going to be just a fascinating contest between two sets of extremely talented 11s.
Absolutely. So I think Sumanda is back. Are you able to follow? Sumanda?
Absolutely. John,
Right.
sorry for the glitches. And sorry to the viewers as well. I am having some internet issues. But John, I have a question. I have a definite question. I don't know whether you have answered it or not. How do you see Manuel Neuer in this particular season, especially in the Champions League?
Okay, he's played behind a vulnerable defence. Neuer has generally been regarded over the years as one of the cleverest custodians in many ways, one who distributes the ball exceedingly well, although he got caught out a couple of times in the last World Cup finals playing for his nation, for his country, rather than for his team. Goalkeepers are under so much pressure nowadays, and partly because, I don't know how this has happened worldwide, but suddenly coaches have taken it upon themselves to tell the goalkeepers, you've got to play out from the back. Hence, we've seen the De Gea mistakes for Manchester United. We've seen mistakes by even Dean Henderson at Sheffield United got caught out, and he's had a wonderful season. And I talk a lot about the English Premier League, obviously, because this is where I am based. We've seen some horrendous goalkeeping howlers in the last few weeks since lockdown, since football came back, you know. So I think that Neuer has been regarded in the top three in the world. Ter Stegen, for example, last week, an absolute calamity, wasn't he? You know, so the pressure is on the number one all the time. They cannot relax for 90 minutes. And tonight will be absolutely fascinating because he's coming up against lightning speed, isn't he? So his reflexes will have to be at his sharpest because anything can happen when Mbappe's on the ball and coming at you. Anything can happen when Di Maria is playing clever, cultured passes into the centre. They have to be at their very focused, sharpest for 90 minutes. And I think Manuel Neuer is in for quite a busy night because that's why we're saying it's such an interesting matchup, this one. The best attacking players in the world, in many ways, are out on that pitch tonight. Okay, we've no Messi, we've no Ronaldo, but you have got Lewandowski, you have got Neymar. So Neuer is going to have to be at his absolute best. I've not seen a lot of Rico at the other end of the pitch. So Neuer is a winner. I do know that. I know he's a man of attitude, as goalkeepers tend to have to be. And he will want to walk off with that winner's medal this evening. So I think he'll be in the right frame of mind. Put it that way.
Ronak.
Right. We will move on to the next question from the viewers. Angjun Kim is asking, what do you think about today's Champions League's opening ceremony? I don't think it is going to be fun. Neither do I. What do you feel, sir?
No, you know, this is a very strange thing, isn't it? I've read so many articles in the last couple of days, and I've been party to some of this because the whole experience, the whole evening, of course, should really be a jamboree. It should be a gala. It should be a festival of the whole season of football. And I think I expressed my views with you last week that I found it very difficult in the few games I've been to since football returned. The atmosphere has just not been there at all. And it's very, very difficult. An opening ceremony with nobody in the stadium is interesting. If I can just relate one thing to you. Here, BT Sport, of course, are the company, the channel that is broadcasting the final live in England. Their team, their entire team in Lisbon consists of 5 people. Last year, it consisted of 150 people. They have one commentator. They have one co-commentator, Steve McManaman, the former Liverpool and England player. They have one, touchline reporter, and they have one cameraman, one sound guy. 5 people. The rest of the production team are all in London, or in England, in different homes, dotted around the world, dotted around the country. So this is, I make the point just to typify the fact that there are no fans in the stadium, as we know. So what is the point of an opening ceremony, apart from if you want a few rockets to go off as the teams come onto the pitch? And I think it will be so difficult for the players. For example, here, when we had the FA Cup final and when Liverpool won the title and they go to get their medals and there's nobody to present them with the medal, nobody to put it round their neck. They just have to go and pick it off the table. It's horrible. I really can't bear that because I'm a traditionalist anyway. And I grew up on the sight of the winner of the FA Cup final going up all those steps and to receive it from the Queen or from somebody, the Prime Minister or whoever. It's all part of the fate, the gala, the experience, the culmination of an entire campaign. And so much is lost by this unfortunate episode, of course. And we know it's forced upon us and why we have it. But I would dread to think that it would ever happen again. I commentated on the final of the Indian League not so long ago, as you know, ISL, when the match was in Goa and I was in Mumbai. And again, very strange at the final whistle and when ATK had won the tournament, and the players hadn't a clue how to celebrate, really. You know, okay, we've won, fantastic, you know, but who gives me a medal? Where do I go? There are no fans there to cheer with. Yeah. Just not right, I'm afraid. It's all a little bit false and inanimate, and it's a great shame. But let's hope that in 2021 we have a proper final with a big crowd there to respect the winners and the new champions.
Absolutely. So I think we would move on to the next question from the viewers.
Neuer or Navas?
Shahid Ghosh is asking, Neuer or Navas?
Okay.
Who is more important towards the result of the game?
Yeah, I'm sure. Who's to say? In 90 minutes, anything can happen in a game. You can get caught out by one long shot. You can. I think the goalkeepers are obviously massively important members, but I think everybody has been focusing on just about every other position. The strikers, you know, the key midfield players, even the fullbacks we've been concentrating on. I think we just expect goalkeepers to do their jobs. They've both been around so long, haven't they? I said I've not seen a great deal of Navas or Rico, as we've been calling him, but I have, but not in the last couple of years, probably. Whereas I've seen quite a lot of Neuer, and we all know they're both extremely capable. They're both extremely experienced goalkeepers. Who will have the greater influence will depend on who has the majority of the attacking play in this game. It might be 50-50. It might be 60-40. You know, Bayern tend to monopolise that. They've had as much as 70% in some games. I don't expect that tonight. I would think it'd be far more even. It might even be 55-45. So the goalkeepers have a role to play. But that's one thing you cannot predict because we don't know the sort of conditions they have to deal with, the sort of attacks they have to deal with. What we do know, I think, is that there are going to be plenty of goal-scoring opportunities throughout the 90 minutes and plenty of time for the goalkeepers to show just how good they are.
Absolutely. So, talking about champions, the last time we had a new champion winning the Champions League was in 2012 when Chelsea won, were the new champions after 20 odd years. And now, this time, we have PSG who have the chance to, break that record. And the last time we had a French team playing in the Champions League final was Monaco playing in 2004. So if PSG win tonight, what do you think will it mean for the Champions League, the UEFA association, and for French football?
Oh, I think it's absolutely massive. One of the better articles I've been reading today is about the fact that you are not recognised throughout the world as being a great team unless you win the Champions League. I mean, we all know that Real Madrid absolutely dominated it in the early years. And since then, you've had teams like Ajax and Benfica, Manchester United, obviously, with their wins. You have to win the Champions League to gain the respect of the rest of the footballing world. Now, France took a big step in gaining a lot of respect by winning the World Cup final. We know they won it, of course, back in France in 98 as well. So French football is on the march. It is on the way up. They've always had great players like Papin, of course, was the one who we would remember from all those years ago. Just Fontaine, few people remember him, but back in the 1950s, he was the top scorer in the World Cup finals and a great, great player. And then we've had the Didier Deschamps years as well. So French football has improved dramatically. What hasn't happened is that their league, Ligue 1, hasn't kept pace with the national team, really. And there's been a bit of a joke, people have referred to it. I think last week we talked about this farmyard accusation, which was a nasty little tag to put on them, really. But it hasn't been as strong as the Spanish, the Italian, the English leagues. But I think if PSG can win this evening, then people have to have new respect for the French league, which does have teams like Marseille and Lyon and Monaco, which are very, very good. And one thing that could happen would be that they would be able to attract greater players as well. We all know the best players from Argentina and Brazil, for example, have tended to go to Spain, to England, maybe to the odd one to Portugal. But now one or two more, Neymar's an exception, of course, Thiago Silva's an exception, maybe a few more would think, okay, I wouldn't mind going to Paris, I wouldn't mind going to Lyon, I wouldn't mind going to Marseille. So the spin-off from victory tonight, I think, would be absolutely huge for PSG, more than for Bayern, because the German league, and all credit to them, they tend to attract their own players more. A few young English players have started to go there now, like Jadon Sancho in recent times as well. But the spin-off wouldn't be as great for Bayern Munich as it would be for PSG.
Absolutely. We will take the next question from the viewers. Sanam Deep is asking, I am Shubhadeep, a Bayern supporter from Kolkata. I love Bundesliga and Bayern Munich. How much chance Bayern has to win the 6th UCL?
Well, I've said all along that they have played the champions so many, many times, and I've seen Bayern Munich play in a number of finals. And I'm not going to change what I said last week. My stance last week, and I stick by it, was that Bayern Munich would be the champions. So I'm not going to change it now. Historically, they should win. I'm a great believer in this, funnily enough. Sometimes a team gets to a final and that's it. That they've actually won it for themselves, basically by getting that far, but they can't take that one last step to win the gold medals. Whereas Bayern are habitual champions. So if and when you have put me on the spot and said who's going to win, I've said Bayern, because they are used to winning. PSG are not used to winning the Champions League. So I'm interested to know, by the way, whether a Bayern Munich supporter living in Kolkata is also a fan of ATK Molenbeek nowadays. Might have to be next year. Or maybe you'll do a tie-up with Bayern Munich. Or maybe you'll come and get one or two players in the end. I find it's a fascinating chemistry, the way that people in different parts of the world support different teams. But no, I put on the spot, I'm still going for Bayern to win tonight, simply because of that habitual character in their nature. They've won it for year after year after year, going back many, many years to the Rummeniggers and the people like that, just used to winning titles. And that's why I go for the Germans to win tonight, to prevail.
Absolutely. We would take the last 3 questions from the fans, but I would request Sumanda to pitch in. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Please ask a question.
Yes. I was just going through the questions of the fans. There is no Messi, there is no Ronaldo in the final, despite the fact that 2 outstandingly balanced teams are playing a Champions League final. Is it a statement to world football? What do you say, John?
Is it what, Suman? Sorry. I heard most of the question. Didn't catch the last bit.
Yes, the question is, there would be no Messi, no Ronaldo in the Champions League final, despite the fact that there'd be 2 outstandingly talented teams and balanced teams who would be up against each other in the big final. Is it a statement to world football that something is evolving beyond Messi and Ronaldo?
Yes, I think it's a changing of the guard a little bit. We all saw how horrendous Barcelona were in their loss to Bayern Munich. And Juventus haven't made an impact outside of their own league, Serie A. And so both those players, Messi and Ronaldo, have still had an amazing impact on their clubs in the last season. Ronaldo has continued to score goals week in, week out. Messi has always scored goals as well. So, but I don't think that the game itself in Europe is losing anything by Barcelona and Juventus not being in the final. We have a chance to respect 2 new teams, and new heroes might emerge. Although you could argue that Di Maria and Neymar have been around for long enough for everybody to know them anyway. But when you put your stamp on the actual final, then it is a big chance for a Lewandowski or a Gnabry or a Mbappé, to say, we are the new kids on the block. We are the new champions. Watch us. Don't watch Juventus anymore. Don't watch Cristiano Ronaldo. Don't watch Messi and Barcelona. They've gone. They've had their day. We are, the people who should be in focus. So I think it is a statement in many, many ways. At the start of the campaign, a lot of people would have said, yeah, Barcelona, Juventus, they'll be in there. Well, they were in there for a long, long time, but only two teams can get to a final. And PSG and Bayern Munich have proved to be the two best. And that's why they're there this evening in Lisbon.
Absolutely. Next question from the fan, please. Bijoy Karate is asking, do you think that sweeper goalkeeping can cause problems for Bayern since PSG has speedy players like Mbappé and Di Maria?
Yeah, it's another one of these fascinating scenarios. Anybody with pace is going to pose the opposition problems, as long as they've got a brain as well. And Mbappé does have a brain. I like him a great deal. I think when he exploded onto the scene, we thought, here is a new superhero. And the fact that he was French made it a bit different as well. The fact he was not a Brazilian or an Argentinian or a German. So Kylian Mbappe's progress in the game is absolutely fascinating. And that is probably the most interesting aspect of the entire match tonight. Whether PSG can utilize that speed and brain and pace of thought as well to actually go on and win the title. Because I don't think Bayern have got anybody as quick as him. They've got clever players. Lewandowski's clever in his positional play. I've mentioned before how much I like Kimmich. I've not mentioned Perisic much either. There are so many talented and different players. That's what makes it interesting. The chemistry of the match is fascinating because the top players all have different assets. I mean, Thomas Muller isn't quick, except up there. He's quick in the brain. He's quick in his thinking. He's quick in his passing and in his positional play. Not in his feet. Mbappé is exceptionally fast in his feet. He goes like a rocket on the others. And then you've got Davies as well, who is tremendously quick down the left-hand side for Bayern. So it's just one of these fascinating scenarios. So well, I'm not quite sure about a sweeping goalkeeper, because a goalkeeper for me has to be alert at every situation, and they have to be where they earn their corn is between the sticks, keeping the ball out. Their distribution has become important, and they have to read the situation behind the back line. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that they've got to do is keep the ball out of the net.
Right. We'll move on to the last two questions. Let's see who are the luckier ones. Suman Saha is asking, fitness level and understanding with each other is the key of success of Bayern. What do you think, sir? What about Davies? What a performance, a new invention in Champions League.
Yeah, as I've said, I like Davies a great deal, and I just wish that, and this is not being detrimental to Canada, because they've as much right to produce great players as anybody else, and they have had some good players over the years. But I think what I'm getting at there is that his personality, his profile would be raised by coming from a different country. You'd heard far more about him, for example, if he'd been playing even for the United States of America, because he'd have had a chance to perform in a World Cup finals. The fitness aspect is absolutely fascinating, because these fellas nowadays are just a totally different breed to anything that's gone before. And I sometimes groan when I hear the old timers say the game is not what it used to be. Of course it isn't. And of course they don't play with lead heavy balls like we did when I was at school in the 50s. You dreaded the ball coming and you having to head it like that, But the fitness levels, the lengths they go to avoid alcohol, to eat the right things. I was reading about one of the players here, and I'm trying to get, I think it is Lewandowski, who eats his meals back to front. Starts with the dessert, then he'll have a salad or whatever, and finish with the starter course. And these are the lengths that they go to nowadays to ensure that they are in absolutely prime condition. They eat at a certain time, they sleep at a certain time. they can run like a gazelle. The majority of them. We pick out Mbappé and Davies because even in this day of everybody being so fit, they are exceptionally fast. But the way that the dietitians and the people who control the lives of the footballers has gone about it is so different to the ways that we did things even back in the 70s and 80s. You know, footballers, you'd still see them having a cigarette, sorry, excuse my expression. You would still see them out having a few beers during the course of the season. You just don't see that anymore. You really don't. And so I think that the fitness levels are just up there somewhere compared to what they've ever been before. And so we are astonished if we see somebody who is not as fit as you would expect nowadays. So tonight, I think the conditions in Lisbon will be pretty good for a good game of football anyway. It's not going to be too hot with a kickoff at 8 o'clock in the evening Portuguese time. So, you know, looking forward to it as everybody else is. And as we always say, may the best team win.
Absolutely. May the best team win. So we will take the last question from the viewers. Rishiv Das is asking, sir, what's your thought on Thomas Tuchel's tactics? I think this has been answered still. Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel will have his tactics worked out. He has done for every round so far. Both coaches will know exactly the way they want their sides set up and they want them to play, unless there's any late hiccup before. You never know. Sometimes happens, or an early substitution has to be made due to an injury. They'll know the facets of every single member of the opposition. They know the skills and adroitness of every one of their own players. They'll be just looking to exploit certain areas. We've discussed the fact that Bayern, we know, can be a bit delicate defensively, that they will give the opposition chances, and that is what PSG will be looking to feed off. We know that PSG have probably got the best attack in terms of the three players, you know, Di Maria, Neymar, and Mbappé. You can't get a better front three than that, really. And that is something that they will be looking to exploit themselves. And Tuchel, I'm sure, will know. He'll just know how to get the best out of his players. It's who performs on the night, and you never know. Some people get onto the big stage and die of fright. Don't really see that happening with many of them this evening because they're nearly all, well, they are all experienced players. Some people get onto a stage, and this is why people have been writing and talking so much about Neymar, saying this is your night. This is your stage. You want it to be the new Ronaldo. You want it to be the new Messi. And if it is his night, then PSG will win.
Absolutely. So that was a very insightful session with sir. So before we end, I would request Sumanda to ask the last question, please.
Quick prediction.
Well, if people have said it's going to be high scoring, I'm not going to argue against that. I'm still going to go for Bayern, and I'll go 3-1.
Right.
As detailed, as good as you like, if it comes in terms of a football preview show with John Helm. And it's the final preview, as we all told you before the start of the show as well, the Champions League final. Indian time, it's 12:30 at night, and I'm sure the football world will be witnessing a terrific game in action. Some outstanding talents of world football will be taking on each other, and a battle between two shrewd tacticians will be on display. Thank you so much, John, to be there with us. I'm sure all the fans who have watched this show, they are graced by your knowledge and, of course, your thoughts about this beautiful game. Thank you, Ronak, as well, for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Shukriya. Namaste.
Thank you, John.